All right. Well, we are just a few minutes after our start time, and it looks like we've got a pretty good number of people signed in that we were expecting. So we will go ahead and welcome everyone tonight and get started. So I do want to, of course, let everybody know, especially our panelists, that the session is being recorded. That's helpful information for our attendees, not because you all are going to be recorded, you're not, but because we will post this session afterwards on our website, where we will also include subtitles on the video. So I definitely invite you to look back and to relook at tonight's recording if that's useful to you. So I'm going to stop sharing so we can see all of our panelists as we get into our introduction tonight. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Robinson. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm a graduate assistant for the UConn Higher Education and Student Affairs program in the NEAG School of Education, and I'll be facilitating our info session tonight. We would like to begin by acknowledging that as we gather virtually today, the land on which our university is located is the territory of the Mohegan, Mashantucket Pequot, Eastern Pequot, Schaghticoke, Golden Hill Pawcasset, Nipmuc, and Lenape peoples who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. We thank them for their strength and resilience in protecting this land and aspire to uphold our responsibilities according to their example. We recognize the rich knowledge and experiences that Native and Indigenous people bring to our educational spaces and acknowledge that Indigenous methodologies, pedagogies, and existence in higher education are acts of resistance against an oppressive educational system that has expropriated Native lands and attempted to erase Native knowledge and ways of living. I also want to make everyone in the audience aware that during our session tonight, you can ask questions using the Q&A feature, and we will answer questions throughout following each of our discussion prompts. So please direct your questions to the host. You don't have to wait until the end. We will integrate your questions throughout our session tonight. The purpose of this information session is to provide prospective students with insights and information about what it's like to be a HESA student from current HESA students, program faculty, and assistantship supervisors. We'll address questions about the application process, the academic experience of the HESA program, assistantship experiences, and the social life and culture of HESA and UConn. We hope that this session offers you a helpful window into the HESA experience and an opportunity to become familiar with our HESA community. So I want to start by sharing a brief overview of our program and information about our application process. So HESA is a 2-year cohort-based residential master's program. We have class sizes of between 15 to 20 students. The program features 2 semesters of practicum experiences, a full-year hands-on assessment class, and the capstone project is a comprehensive exam in which students show evidence of and reflect on their learning toward our program's competencies. Our program emphasizes social justice, practical preparation through theory to practice, and coursework that's focused both on student learning and development and higher education administration. As you are likely aware, the HESA application is currently open and is due on December 1st. Your application to HESA includes an online application form, a resume, 2 essays, 3 letters of recommendation, unofficial transcripts, and for international students, official TOEFL scores. We do not require GRE scores for application, and we will not look at them, so don't bother sending them to us. For more information about our application materials, please do refer to our website. That whole list is on there. We strongly encourage all students who meet the requirements for admission to apply for admission to our program, regardless of citizenship or immigration status. If you have questions about how your citizenship or immigration status will affect your experience in our program, please send us an email and we will be happy to talk with you about that. So another important point is that all full-time HESA students are placed in graduate assistantships, or GAs. You'll hear a lot about that tonight. A GA is a 20-hour-a-week job with a university department or office that's connected to what you're learning and studying in the HESA coursework. In a GA position, you get hands-on experience with the kind of work that you might pursue after completing your degree. Your GA position will cover the cost of your tuition, and you'll be paid bi-weekly like a regular job. There are lots of other great benefits to being a GA at UConn, like health insurance and fee waivers. I'm sure that our students will be able to speak to that. I'm also a GA, so I can say firsthand, great benefits. The HESA admission process includes interviews with faculty and for assistantships. Qualified applicants will be notified by mid-January if you're being invited to interview. Interviews will be held virtually this year during February, with the assistantship interviews scheduled to take place the week of February 21st. During the current pandemic, UConn is operating in a hybrid model of in-person and remote operations. We have temporarily moved all of our program's coursework and programming online. HESA GAs have a variety of work roles, and as employees of the university, their work has been in accordance with the university's COVID plan. So some HESA GAs are working fully remote during this time, and others are doing some work on campus. I think that's sort of the overview, the facts and figures about HESA. So at this point, I'm going to turn things over to our wonderful panelists to introduce themselves. Dr. Stewart, would you like to begin?
Sure. Thank you, Ashley, for that beautiful introduction. My name is Dr. Sharon Stewart. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'm the Associate Professor for Higher Education and Student Affairs, as well as the Program Director for the beautiful HESA program. And I also have a whole nother title, if you can imagine that, as Director of Global Education for the NEAG School of Education. Thank you.
I can go next. Howdy, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to this session. My name is Mers Lim. He, him, his are my pronouns. I am the Associate Director of the Asian American Cultural Center, one of 5 cultural centers on campus, and then we have the Native American Cultural Programs Office. I am also a HESA alum, product of the HESA program that you're applying to, class of 2011. Our site provides a GA-ship for this upcoming year, and we also hold practicum sites.
Hey y'all, my name is Nicole Hyman. I utilize she, her pronouns, and I am a second year in the HESA program, and my graduate assistantship is with the pre-college summer program, which is housed in the Office of Early College Programs, and this semester I am doing a practicum in advising.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dominique Moore, and I use she, they pronouns. Kind of like Nicole, I'm also a part of the program, but I'm a first year, and my graduate assistantship is within the Center for Career Development.
Wonderful. Thank you all. So let's go ahead and discuss our first question. Again, we'll hear from our panelists on each of the preset questions that we have, but we'll also address your questions throughout. So please do submit those in the Q&A at any time. So this is for everyone. In your opinion, what distinguishes or makes the UConn HESA program unique?
I'm happy to kick us off, if that's all right. Something that I've been reflecting on a little bit this semester in the second year is the opportunity to have not just 1, but 2 practicum experiences. I've had a really positive experience with my graduate assistantship, but I do feel as though because we've had 2 practicum experiences, I've had the chance to really explore different functional areas within higher ed and student affairs that are completely unrelated, not completely unrelated, but are distinct and different from my assistantship. So I do early college programming in my assistantship, but I did student care and concern in my first practicum, and now I'm working in advising. So I've really appreciated the opportunity to get to know different professionals on campus and also get the experience of doing different types of work as well.
I think for me, whenever I was a student, the biggest piece that really was the distinguishing aspect within the HESA program is a financial piece. having an assistantship, having a stipend, and also the insurance that out of all the other programs that I applied to across the country did not compete to the level of financial burden that I would not provide, or I would be provided by the institution within this program, right? So yes, you have your student fees, and that's roughly close to maybe $1,000, and then but everything else could be taken care of. I think the other piece is when you reach your second semester, you have practicum sites, and those practicum sites can allow you to explore not only within UConn, but you can also go to the neighboring campuses within the state. Some have been even explored at practicum sites in Boston because of the concentration of various schools and unique experiences, whether it's a private institution that you're looking for. So I think it was the ability to be able to just look around and shop to see what kind of experiences that I am not seeing within the UConn that I could get from a different school that maybe is 15, 20 minutes down the road from my house.
So I'll jump in from a faculty standpoint, just really in addition to the financial, which was big when I was a student. I will say from a faculty standpoint, having a heavy emphasis on diversity, equity, social justice is really paramount in our program. It's paramount in the work that the faculty do. And it's also paramount in how we execute it in supporting our students throughout their entire 2-year residential journey. And so you come in very strong in a very cohort model. There's a number of competencies that we look at from a professional development standpoint. And truly, our graduates are truly industry ready for higher education and student affairs. And so we see time and time again, I mean, MERS is a great example of that, but there are a number of alums that are placed immediately thereafter and then just completely scale up in their professions and growth. And that has been great to see because there really is a direct theory to practice and industry readiness with the program. And they're highly sought after as well throughout.
Honestly, I think all three of you have touched on any and everything that I could really say. But I was mainly really going to stress Nicole's point of being able to explore a bunch of different functional areas within student affairs. We are able to have our 2 practicum experiences, and even though assessment technically isn't a practicum, I think the assessment class as well gives me a chance to work with a department on campus that I've never had experience with. And then also going back to like the alum network, I think it's really cool to see how supportive HESA alum are of the HESA program, because a lot of the practicum experiences are with past HESA students. So I think that's something also really cool that distinguishes our program.
Wonderful. I can definitely also say those first-year assessment students are jumping right in and doing some serious work. I'm working with one of the teams right now, and it is almost like a practicum. There is real theory to practice happening already. So I do. My dogs are obviously barking. So I sort of want the next question I want to pose to you all, and this is maybe a little bit for our faculty and supervisors, but what do you look for in potential HESA students?
I think one thing that I really appreciated seeing it from a student applying it, and then also now actually looking through the application process and then going through the interview with students, that we actually look at everything as a holistic student's perspective. It's just not based upon their essay or their scores or whatever involvement it is. It is a from the start, once you apply, and all the way to the interview of how we felt overall and how you have presented yourself to us as a potential student, right? So is there level of authenticity, or is this just something that you're trying to just get through in the swing of things? So I think for me, whenever I look for an applicant, what is their intention of going into this field, and what do you want to be able to bring and give back to the community? I think we all have individualized stories as to the impact of people around us that has implemented as to why we are in this field. And I want to see that side in you. You don't need to do the dog and pony show. We as faculty and staff can read through that. We just want to know your story, what brought you here, and what kind of impact do you want these 2 years to be like, right? So that's the aspect in terms of how you bring yourself to the table. But in terms of working and doing the work, it's trial by error, baptism by fire. You have to be willing to be able to laugh at yourself and to be able to laugh at your team, and also being able to just be okay with failing, and not having to be feeling like you have to put up a front that you are the end all picture perfect. This is the assistantship GA that you're going to fit. It's okay to not be perfect and to be able to acknowledge where you fell and then be able to learn from that and move through. So it's that level of perseverance that I want to be able to see that you're willing to get through, whether it's through your curriculum, your classes, or within the assistantship or the position that you're placed to. Is that, are you willing to tackle this marathon, and are you going to be able to push through, right?
So absolutely. So there's two different layers for applicants to really get through. The first layer is really this kind of blind shot where we're looking at you strictly on paper, right? And Dominique and Casey hosted a really great workshop this past weekend just for all student affairs applicants, essentially. You know, what you wish you would have known a year ago had you had the kind of insight that they had now. And I thought it was brilliantly done. And some of the similar questions came up. And we kind of stated that, you know, when you first apply, we're looking at all these numbers on you. And one thing that ties in with the first question that Ashley asked was, you know, we don't look at GRE scores. So, and the reason why we don't is that we really do look at access and equity work on a holistic level. And that's very important to what we do as a program as well. So in lieu of that, we have to take the entire student, as Mer said, from a holistic standpoint. And one of the ways in which you do that in the application process is really looking through a fine-tooth comb. There's a metrics that we use, and we comb through your essays. You know, not every program requires students to have these 2 essays, and our essays are very thoughtfully constructed around the reflective practitioner as well as the inclusive practitioner, and it speaks towards what our values are as a program. And so that's kind of your first point of clearance, if you want to say, right, where we're really looking at who you are and your authentic selves. And we're trying to get a real sense of you fitting within the community and within the HESA village as a part of a community member as well. And then the next stage, getting through the application process, is the visit and the interview. And Mer said it well, when you are interviewing with 4 different sites as well as the faculty, there's a lot at stake, right? And one thing I had given advice to the panel that we were on over the weekend is that from the moment that you are on, and this time it will be all virtual, so help us with virtual fatigue throughout the day. But the moment you are on for the various sections, the various interviews, we are collaborating across all our partners to figure out, is this person going to be a great fit? And are we a good fit for them as well? It is a two-way street. Please don't ever think that this application process is one way. We are looking to see whether or not you're a good fit for us, but you should be examining whether we are a good fit for you as well to succeed. So.
Thank you. So I'm going to answer a bit of a logistical question because Saran just talked about the interviews a little bit. So when we do interviews for assistantships, the candidates that we invite to interview get to pick their top 4 from the available sites that we have for the year. And of course, the evaluation of that includes your previous experiences, it includes the interview, it includes your interests. So sort of all of those things are tied into that, but you just get to pick the top 4 sites that you are interested in interviewing with. So that was a great logistical question. So we've got some questions that I think are a little bit more geared toward our wonderful student panelists. I sort of have this overall arching question about why you chose UConn HESA, but we've also gotten a great question in the chat just now about sort of along those lines. What's your story? What was your goals, right, when you started the program? So I realize that might be a little bit different now than it was when you started, but reflecting a little bit, right, on what your goals were, why you chose this program, and maybe reflecting on how that's sort of looking for you so far, since you're not static people. So tell us a little bit about your UConn HESA stories so far, if you don't mind.
Dom, would you like to start? I'm happy to, but whatever you're comfortable with is fine with me.
Either or, I can start, you can start, you pick.
You go for it.
Okay. To kind of answer the first question that I knew about, why UConn HESA, I think there's a number of reasons. But in my faculty interview, I was really telling Adam, one of our professors, that I really wanted to be in a program where I gained the opportunity and more knowledge on how to do my undergraduate research. And my undergrad research was focused on Black girlhood in higher education. So I really wanted to be in a program that valued research, because not all schools are research driven. But I definitely believe that HESA, UConn HESA, was one. Another reason, my comfortability. If I don't feel comfortable in a place, I'm not going to be in that place. It's 2 years of my life, 2 years in my 20s, that I don't want to have to give back. So I genuinely felt comfortable around all the students during interview weekend. Like, that was an amazing time, meeting everyone who are now my cohort members and who are at other schools that I still have relationships with. And in terms of what my story is, I started in res life in undergrad, and I think most of us didn't know that higher education student affairs existed until we got into higher education. So my REC was like, have you ever considered going into this field? Started looking into it, and I was like, wow, I actually really love students. I really love diversity and equity work. So a goal of mine is to either work with like pre-college programs, but like TRIO, so working with minoritized groups, or something else. I don't know. I have a lot of interests. I talked to Dr. Saran about that as well. I'm interested in a lot of different things, which is another reason why I chose UConn HESA. I think it gives me the exposure to almost any and all subfield within this field. And hopefully by the time I graduate, I know exactly where I want to go.
I didn't know you were an RA. I was too. Wow, there's a lot here. I think my journey kind of to UConn HESA, similarly, I didn't really intend when I started as an undergrad to come into higher ed, but I think a number of us had a good relationship with a mentor that kind of encouraged me to think in this way. When I graduated from undergrad, I actually did a term of service with AmeriCorps, working with TRIO programs, working in college access. And it was really that work that kind of led me directly to UConn HESA. And really what led me to choose decide UConn over other institutions and opportunities was that financial component that Dr. Stewart and that Mers touched on earlier. The insurance, the stipends, the tuition waiver were tough to pass up. And on top of that, I was also considering my assistantship. I think we say it's 20 hours a week, it's part-time, but it's 20 hours a week. That's 20 hours of my life every single week. And I really wanted to feel confident that I would, as much as I could, enjoy the work that I was doing in my assistantship. And I was very thankful that when I interviewed with my supervisor and another employee in my department, we really connected during the interview. And like kind of to what Dom was speaking about earlier, I felt really comfortable with them, and I felt that that would be a comfortable work environment for me. So those two factors were kind of the ones that drove it home for me.
Awesome. And I'm sure that you all have just completely figured out everything about the rest of your career now, right? As a result of Nicole's like, no, hard no.
No.
So with that said, right, thinking a little bit about how the HESA program prepares our students to have careers in higher education and student affairs, right? Some of the questions we've gotten: what does it look like to be successful in the HESA program? What kinds of employment, are people getting? But what's really happening within the context of our program in these 2 years that, prepares our students for a successful career once they depart the program?
Mers, do you want to start us off with that? You're like a great example.
Here we have Mers, who is successfully working as a student affairs professional and is a graduate of our program. So
Sure. I still don't know if this is going to be the trajectory that I'm going to be in, but I think for me, in terms of the success or what that looks like or how it has prepared me, is the practicality of my assistantship and the practicum sites that I was engaged in. Yes, we focus within the curriculum this practice to theory or theory to practice, and then how does that apply? And it was really the aspect of having my supervisor, and also now with my current GA, I am very intentional as to, okay, what did you learn about classes today? How is that relatable to the things that you're doing right now? And what changes could it be? Because you're working with Asian American students or students of color, a lot of the context that the theory that is in place were white generated, right? So how do you make meaning of that, and how can it be applicable to the work that you're doing? So I think for me, that was the stepping point as to when it came to the interviews. I was really able to provide contextual exact moments as to, here's the theory that I learned. Tinto's transitional, the transitional theory, Schlossberg's transitional theory. Here's what happened with my student. Here's a practical event that happened 2 weeks ago. And so I to the folks, we talk about trial by fire, baptism by fire. It is that is a practice that we have that you will learn, and then we will be sure in the background to be able to support you in the way that you're not feeling like you're just kind of left out in the gray trying to navigate that for you. We will scaffold and provide that support, but we also want you to allow you to push yourself to that level of comfortability where you're pushing yourself to think and dig deeper and contextualize what is those theories that you've learned, and here's the practicality of that, or how can you navigate those spaces, right? So I think that is the big landmark for me as to when I talk to other HESA students that recently graduated, they can provide and talk about those aspects in a way that I have seen others that just are just level surface type of conversations.
So one of the things that we love to do is you have the GA-ship, assistantships, right? And you have practicum. So you're getting the practical application of everything that you're learning. But there's a whole other side of things as well. Students are able to participate in professional development areas of conferences, especially in our field of student affairs and higher education. And they are typically either supported beyond just mentorship, but financially as well, where we assist with that work and then we partner with the students on various things. When it comes the year in your second year that you're about to graduate, we help our students with the job talks in preparing them for job talks. And so the real investment for us is that you are industry ready. We're going to work with you as best as possible to help you find something in industry. And let's just face it, this is a pandemic, okay, year. And it's one of the most uncertain times that all of us are being faced with. And so that just means that our work is that much more turned up, because we are very mindful and extremely empathetic with our students, especially our second year students like Nicole and that cohort about to come out and what they're going to come out to. So we're working twice as hard to make sure that we're going to do all that we can to give them that next level of push into the job market, whether it's references, whether it's networks, whether it's seeking out different opportunities, whether it's doing an additional practicum site because, hey, they need to be skilled up in a different area. And so the program does that already, but you really do have a supportive set of faculty that are really invested in each of the students' success. And that's real talk. It's exhausting work. Do not misunderstand this. But there's a real commitment to have our students succeed. And it is something to really see take shape, and to also see how the students are ready and they have invested themselves in multiple ways to meet us halfway with the process. So it's a lot of work to work 20 hours and 140 hours of practicum. So please understand, that's why I keep saying it's a two-way street. It is. It's a best fit for you as well as a best fit for us. And it's a lot of work. These students on this panel will tell you they don't really have a life during the regular week, because they have 4 classes and a 20-hour internship. And then by spring, they'll have an additional 10 hours. So they're working full time and they're full-time students. It's a conundrum, but it is doable. They can do it. And they are being guided by both skilled practitioners like MERS as well as scholar practitioners like myself. And so you are in a community and you are fully supported throughout the process.
I think also from the student perspective, and I know it's literally the title of a course, but I'm genuinely gaining and understanding my identity within this field because of my classes, and even outside of the course that's focusing specifically on fostering my scholar practitioner identity. I think I'm learning and engaging with a lot of different material that helps me to figure out like what exactly I'm passionate about, what exact like issues I personally want to tackle in the field, the things that I can contribute to the field now, and the things that like the skills and the knowledge that I want to gain before I leave. So I think our program really does a great job with helping us figure out exactly like who we are, because who I thought I was in student affairs like 2 years ago is definitely not who I am in student affairs now. So I think it's very interesting, and that's through coursework, that's through just like dialogue with my cohort members, that's through like my assignments, that's through my practicum. I mean, not my practicum, but my assistantship. So I genuinely think I'm gaining or starting to gain my identity so far.
Okay. So here's a question specifically for the students. It was posed to the students, but I also am going to broaden it to everyone because this is something that everyone's experiencing. What challenges have we overcome in our experiences of working and learning through the pandemic this year? And I'm sure we could spend we don't have an hour. We could spend an hour talking about this, but thinking about this specific to the different work that we're doing related to HESA. So if Nicole and Dom can start this off, and then if our other folks want to weigh in as well, we would welcome that.
Sure, yeah. So like it was mentioned earlier, our program is essentially all online. We're doing distance learning this semester. And I've been really touched by how understanding and empathetic our faculty members have been. As I think I've really felt that they recognize that, like, yes, we are students, yes, we are budding practitioners, but we're also people that are in the middle of this pandemic and everything else that's happening in our world right now. And I think they've really made space for us to talk about that as a community, and also reflect that in the ways that they run their courses. So I've really appreciated that. In terms of my practice, and things have definitely changed. Like, for example, something I'm thinking about as part of my practicum experience, I'm shadowing different advisors, and shadowing in person looks really different than shadowing virtually. Shadowing virtually means like waiting in the WebEx lobby until the student says that it's okay that I join in, whereas like in person, there's like a little more like rapport that you can build with the student, even if I'm not their primary advisor. And I felt it a little bit in my assistantship as well. My office physically is a relatively small space, so I can stay in my desk and just kind of like raise my voice a decibel, and suddenly we're having an office-wide conversation. And now it's like hopping on a Teams call. I think these are experiences that many folks have shared. But just building community and engaging in community looks different, but it's still happening. Also, Siri's talking to me now, so that's fun. Yeah, I think that kind of sums up. Oh my gosh, 2020. But yeah, that's what I was going to share. I'll pass it to Dom.
I share the same sentiments. I can't share all the same problems as Nicole, only because my only experience in HESA has been through the pandemic. And although I'm used to online classes, I guess, in undergrad, I'm not used to this online. So I don't know if I actually have really adapted to this yet, 3/4 into the semester. But I do think, yes, like Nicole said, community is definitely changing in my ideas of what community is. And I think my cohort in particular, we've really tried to lean on one another now, because we don't necessarily see each other like every single day. We may see each other like twice a month, if that, and then like mini meetings with like smaller groups here and there. So I think that's definitely different. But I think this pandemic has really allowed me to think about accessibility issues within higher ed, because I'm seeing a lot of different things that like I'm going through, and I'm like, although I guess technically I'm becoming a practitioner, I'm still a student. So I can really see how students are struggling right now during this pandemic. And then working with the Career Center, our engagement is a little low compared to normally. But also, Nicole, I think, gives on my Facebook post yesterday, I'm really realizing that everything does not need to be converted to an online event. Everything does not need an online alternative. We can really just cancel things. We don't need to overwork ourselves and compensate just because we're online. Like, I understand that things are different. So like, we want to have more community and we want to stay engaged, but also it's just a stressful time for everyone. So leaving people be sometimes just helps.
From teaching these lovely students, you have to adapt. You guys are applying for a face-to-face program that is in a face-to-face practitioner space, professional space as well. However, we've all had to pivot completely online and in virtual spaces, and we are experiencing something that we haven't had to research about, which is virtual fatigue. And what that does to us from a physical health lens, and as well from a mental capacity as well. And not to mention, there is literal physical health component to all of this. So from a faculty perspective, what we thought we knew, we have no idea. Meaning we are very skilled. Some people call us experts. We are award-winning, we publish, we do all of that stuff. But none of us have gone through this. And as a result, all of us are new to it and experience it for the first time. The greatness, I think, that is within the faculty is the ability to adapt, right? And so we had a syllabus, and the syllabus needs to be adapted because the syllabus works for face-to-face learning. But it doesn't always work for this level of virtual fatigue that's happening across the space. And so one of the things that the students have echoed is the need for us to be flexible, and we have had to have answer to that. And flexibility is across the board, whether it's changing the assignment, changing the deadline, changing just the context of the syllabus completely in order for us to really actualize the students' true learning outcomes. And that's really the ultimate goal. And it's just making us be much more adaptable to the current context. And I see that for next year's cohort as well, to be quite honest with you, that we're going to have to learn from what we did this year and pull on the strengths and the best practices that we know in this profession, and then adapt completely to the current scenarios that we're going to be faced with.
You're on mute, Ashley.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. Okay, so I have a specific question, which I'm pretty excited to pose for Saran about the typical course load for HESA students and how many credits HESA students take per semester.
That is a great question, because you will be among the first cohort of students that would actually take part in our new program. So recently, these current students that we have are currently completing a 44 credit program, which would normally require them to take 4 courses per semester. In the fall of 2021, we will actually roll out our new program, which will have 36 credits. So it's 8 credits less. And how that translates is that in your first semester, you have about 4 classes, but it will be less credits. And then the following 3 semesters that you have with us, you have about 3 courses. And so that will allow for the same level of rigor, content, and standards that we must adhere to academically, but it will allow for more time for practitioners, for the practicum, as well as for our assistantships. And in that respect, I think what we've done is really heeded the call from students that they're more than ready. But they also wanted more time and depth of time to really be. There's something with having so many courses as a full-time student and a lot of hours devoted that it pulls at being able to dig deep within the content and deep within the experience. And that's what we wanted to offer the students coming in. So you will take part in this brand new design of the program, very much the same courses that the students are taking, but repackaged differently to offer you guys some more time in the 2 years that we are with us.
Thank you. So that connects a little bit into, and I wanted to pose that question before I pose this question of how do you balance being a student and being a paraprofessional? I wouldn't even necessarily call y'all paraprofessionals, to be honest. I consider our HESA students very much to be professionals on our campus, but I wanted you all to hear first that our program is making some structural changes to help enhance that balance for our students, but also wanted to get some insights from our students about what that looks like as well.
Yeah, I think, at least for me, having to balance being a student, having responsibilities with my assistantship and responsibilities with my practicum has really taught me how to guard and set boundaries with my time, which has obviously gotten harder in a virtual space since I'm not moving from building to building or room to room. There's not like the physical difference. It's just me at this laptop at this desk. But really like setting the boundary that if I say I'm going to be doing work for my assistantship from 9 to 12, that really is what I'm doing. And that if I work beyond 12, if I work until 1 instead, that 1 hour gets taken off somewhere else, and that I really do stick to the 20 hours that are in my contract. I don't get paid to do more than 20 hours, and I don't have the capacity to do more than 20 hours. And it took me, I feel like, a semester and a half to really set that like firm boundary. but I started to sleep a lot easier when I did. So I'm thankful for that. And that became particularly important when the layer of a practicum got added as well. And I kind of applied the same technique for it. Yeah.
For me, it's a lot. I'm still working on it. I was one of those students in undergrad who was involved in any and everything. I was involved in Greek life. I was an RA. I was the vice president of another club. I was doing community service, had 2 part-time jobs, was taking 18 credits. I was doing a lot. So I think now I'm really trying to figure out how to make time for myself. I think that's my biggest issue. Because how my schedule is, I choose to work Monday through Thursday. I try to not work on Fridays. Sometimes that doesn't work. But I work 8 to 5, and then that's incorporating classes. But then the rest of my time is generally spent doing homework, working on papers, doing my readings, and other things. So I just really have to fit in time for myself. I love watching TV. So whenever I can sneak in an hour or 2 of Netflix in my day, I try to do that as much as I can. And then also just like making time to go outside and being in community, because I found myself once in a while like having weeks where I haven't been outside at all that week. So like I don't even know what it feels like outside. I don't know what outside looks like. So really just trying to make time for myself. That's my big thing. It's doable, it's manageable, but it takes practice. Especially like this is my first semester being in grad school. It's definitely taken like a lot of practice. So yeah.
You all are way more reflective and insightful about that question than when I was a master's student in your position and was totally burnt out. So I just appreciate you. And as your union representative, I second what Nicole said about the 20 hours. We're here for it. But I think that also speaks to the commitment of our faculty and the culture of our program in making sure that our students are taking time for self-care and that we're making that happen. So a couple more questions. We're nearing the end. So I have sort of 2 questions left. The first one is kind of thinking about what do our cohorts generally look like in terms of who is in our cohorts? Do we have a lot of folks who are coming in with professional practice? Do we have folks that are coming in with certain undergrad experiences? Demographically, what are our cohorts like? Like, obviously, right, I think it is said that this changes from year to year because we are choosing from the wonderful pool of unique applicants we get every year. But sort of generally, what does that look like? How might you describe our cohorts?
I can start us off and then I'll invite you guys to definitely chime in. So this is, I'm privileged. I have got first time bits to be like, wow, this is the most diverse cohorts that, I've been able to work with in the United States. And so the cohorts are anywhere from 18 to 20, and it's a give and take. So our current second year cohorts are at 15, and the first year cohort is at about 17 students. And there is a good mix demographically ranging from all across the United States, to be quite honest with you, west, south, east, and north, and coming in with a multitude of diverse identities across the various spectrums. The brilliancy behind their backgrounds, though, I think is what adds to a depth of richness within the program, and that forms a community. There are some students that will come straight from undergrad, having worked as RAs, as you guys have heard. And then there are some that would have spent a couple of years in student affairs after their undergraduate degree, and then decided to come and become professionals in the area, right? And so you have a really great mix. The other beauty about higher education student affairs is that the students' majors range. You know, we have musicians in the cohorts, we have business undergraduate, of course, we have with, you know, the humanities like psychology, and we have the social sciences like, you know, sociology, etc. And so you do have a really diverse mix of students from all across. And I know in the past, that's why I'm going to invite Murs to talk about like his previous cohorts, what they've had in the past. And so I will say that it's a very rich diversity, both from a gender, race perspective, as well as experiential perspective, geographical location, and even age range as well when it comes to their experiences. So yeah, the cohorts are makes your experience as well. So yeah, Murs, you have.
Yes, thank you very much, Saran. I would agree. My cohort was about 17, and I was the second oldest. I started this program when I was 25, so I worked after I graduated from my undergraduate degree with biomedical science into pre-med route. And I was known as the grandpa because there was another female in the cohort that she was the grandma because she was 1 year older than me. And all of us joked around that, okay, it's time for bed, 7 o'clock. We need to get our groups project assessment taken care of and meeting prior because we're hitting the bed by this time frame, right? So, but we joked around, but how Dr. Stewart recognizes that we all came from different lens and experiences, that's what created more depth into the conversation that we had. We were able to explore more and then be able to give our actual experiences from the work and then be able to contextualize it to the to students that were right out of undergrad to be able to say that, you know, this is what I've seen and experienced about the culture and how to make change within an institution or within a department. So that's one thing that I have appreciated and seen coming back into UConn, that well, I came from Texas, from a Southeast Texas suburbs where I was about 5,000 people in the population, and to come here, it was a nice a level of folks from all over, from the East, West, and you know, so that really has stayed true to the program's commitment to ensuring that everyone is being pulled from different aspects based upon just the intersections that they hold. So yeah.
Okay. 5 minutes left. So this, I put like 3 questions into this one question, which is really advice to HESA applicants, right? So what's the advice for going through the application and interview process? Advice about writing the essays, like what are the words of wisdom that we want to leave folks with as they prepare and continue to work on their applications?
If I can say anything, it's honestly to be yourself. I'm a firm believer in whatever spaces I'm supposed to be in, I will be in. If you are your authentic self in these essays, as I was in my essays, and God forbid, but if he says no, then I genuinely don't think you were meant to be here. Not that you're not meant to be in this field, but maybe this particular school just wouldn't have fit who you are as a person. So I genuinely say be yourself, because you don't want to present yourself in a way that you aren't really, and then you get here and then it's like all these people just don't match my actual energy. So yeah, be yourself.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think to the extent that you feel comfortable, be real, be authentic. And I know that like sounds kind of vague, and there's a lot of privilege, I think, in me saying that. But I think to the extent that you feel comfortable, I think that's important. Like Dom was saying, you don't want to pretend to be something that you're not, or like use a facade that ultimately like lands you in a program, whether it's this one or another one. And then ultimately that's not a good fit for like who you like truly are at your core.
I will say that we get a lot of applicants, okay? And I know when I was a student and people would tell me that, I would start like getting very anxious immediately. But I'm saying that because we have a lot of amazing applicants. And then there are about 5 of us reviewing all of these applicants, and we take it seriously and we review. And when I'm going to say this with, because I used double major in writing. And one of the best things I've ever heard when you have to read an essay and you are competing for us to see you and see you on paper in a way that we wouldn't have been able to see you, is that first opening sentence needs to grab us in a way in which like I was reading some of my students, I was telling them today, I was reading some of my students' analytical reflections, and there's some of them that grabbed me in their first sentence that literally sucked the literal breath out of me, but I couldn't stop reading it and I couldn't move from it. Your essays need to do that, because 100 essays later, it's the ones that take our breath away, literally, that are gonna stand out for us to be able to be like, yes, I want them to come to interview days. And I'm being as truthful as possible, because we do have a lot of applicants. There are very few of us that are going through these, and it's going to take us to really focus. And so when we read those first couple of lines, it needs to really hold us as well with it. So take the essays really seriously. I know for me as a reviewer, I do read those very intensely. And I'm looking at those first couple of opening lines to see whether or not is this going to be that person to invite. So.
And I'll just add quickly in terms of the advice on the opposite end about it has to work for both of you, for you, right, as the potential student. Put yourself on the Google Maps, person view, car view, look around our campus and see, can you actually see yourselves thrive into this institution that if you grew up in a very urban setting, you're going to see cows, you're going to smell things that you're unsure where it came from. Those are the cows from the dairy bar that produce part of the ice cream, right? And so for me, I came from Southeast Texas, and that was I came from Texas A&M University in my undergrad, and that was also an agricultural school. So I was used to it. Folks that may come from California who have more access to diverse foods, that is a little bit harder to find, but it is manageable. So I think as an applicant, you actually have to put yourself literally in the context of Google Maps, Zoom, view, walk around campus and see, can I work here? Can I see myself thrive here in these 2 years, knowing that this is my environment contextually, right? So what Dom, Nicola, and Dr. Stewart presented about the applications, that also has remained true whenever I applied. But I also, when I didn't have the affordability to be able to look at Google Maps, but while I was driving in, looking at the surrounding in the cold winter month of January, where there was a snowstorm, that was hard for me to be able to understand we have snow and there's potential snow days. What? I only have hurricane evacuations aspect in Texas, not the snow complication where I have to get snow boots and thick coats, right? So really look at all elements that fall into it as you put yourself into this program.
Thank you for that real talk, Mers. I will admit that I posted like a beautiful fall foliage picture on our Instagram last week. And it has been suggested to me that I should be posting snow pictures when that starts as well, but I don't know. All joking aside, I want to thank our panelists and for everyone who attended and who posed questions. I know that we didn't get to every single question, but we really appreciate you all. I'm going to contact information, but I encourage you all to send an email if you have any questions, if you have any follow-up questions. Now you know who is on the other side of the email. It's me. So you can feel free to say, hey, Ashley, this is my follow-up question, and I'll get back to you about it. I also encourage you to really review our website. There's a lot of information on our website. We have a robust FAQs section. All the application information is there. And also follow us on our social media outlets, which you can find linked on our website. Our Instagram especially, we do Friday FAQs, and you can see some of the archived stories. So folks were asking about, for example, where our graduates work. We have a whole story feature that is actually shout outs to many of our alumni in the jobs that they're holding now. And we answer a new question about student affairs in HESA every week. So that's a great resource as well. Again, thank you all so much for sharing your time with us. Thank you to our panelists for your energy and enthusiasm and commitment to the HESA program. And we look forward to reading your applications, potential students, and to engaging with you in the future. And I hope that everyone has a great night. Please take care and stay safe, and hopefully we'll see you soon.